What's good, everyone? It's Nigel here, Black Sex Apparel. So, leg session. Leg day seem to come around a lot quicker than any other session. And this one was yesterday. And I was a bit rushed for time. I hate going to the gym and I'm rushed for time, but this session was a little bit rushed for time. So I needed to get this session in. I need to get it in quickly. So I didn't go too heavy, nor did I go too light. I stayed around 140 kilos as my maximum weight during the entire session. And of course, I started off doing back squat, as you can see me performing here. I wanted to stick to really strict form during this session because the weight, like I say, wasn't too heavy. So the idea was to keep the form strict and on point as possible, and almost slowing some of the reps down as well to really feel that burn in the quads, thighs, hamstrings, etc. So yeah, it turned out to be a really good session. I did 4 sets to start with on back squat, 140 kilos, like I say, for 10 reps. So nothing too overly complicated, nothing unconventional from what I normally do, other than the fact, like I said, the weight wasn't as heavy as it normally is, nor the reps as high as they can be when you've seen me doing my 50 rep sets. So it's good to have a middle ground sometimes, and this is my middle ground where I'm not too heavy, the reps are not too high, but I tend to focus solely on the form, which is, there's many ways to skin a cat, like they say, and this is just one of my another way I train my legs, So yeah, nothing really to explain here. The form, like I say, was strict as anything, all the way down, all the way up. Excuse me. And yeah, that was a focus of this session, really. Not to mention, came off I rarely get the cold or flu, and I have been suffering with it for the last few days. I've recovered now. I rarely get it. Like I get it if I get it once a year. That's a lot for me. The last time I had a cold or flu was about 1.5 years ago. I think my immune system is fairly decent, so I rarely get it. But anyway, continuation of my session here. This was set number 3. I think I managed to capture 4 or 5. Well, only 3 sets, but I did do 4 sets of 10 to start off with. As you can see, slow, concentrated form all the way down, all the way up. Because the weight is not as heavy as it usually is, I can now focus on really perfecting the form. I love these sessions for that reason. These sessions where I can perfect the form, where I can perfect the form. So I haven't done that 4 sets of 140 to start off. I went on to front squats, and again, I did 4 sets of 10 on these. Again, nothing too complicated. Your conventional front squats. I keep my hands pushed out to the front as I perform this exercise because I'm comfortable doing it that way. Some people hold the bar or bring their hands in to hold the bar. You do it however you feel comfortable, but that's how I feel comfortable doing this session. So yeah, as you can see, it being performed here slightly better. See my hand placement as I do this front squat. My hands stay out to the front. I'm able to balance the weight on my traps on my shoulders. So I suppose my traps are big enough to do that. So yeah. Again, the form at this weight has to be immaculate. If I move up to 140 on front squats, and the form may not be as strict because the weight is so damn heavy. Sometimes I love, like I said before, I love keeping the weight manageable so the form stays fairly strict. And so I think it's good to have a mixture of everything when you train, right? Going heavy, doing high reps, strict form, and if you could combine all 3 into one session, that's even better, I suppose. form is key for me in everything. So you've seen me do my heavy sessions where the form may not be as great as it is here with the weights I'm doing, but I always make sure that the form is good enough. That way you prevent injuries, etc., etc. So form is key. And of course, one thing I've mentioned to keep myself injury free, which I've managed to do for virtually most of my bodybuilding career. I've had one or two injuries here or there, but it's been very minor. Stretching is so important. Stretching is so important for keeping yourself injury free. So I'm a massive advocate for stretching. I do it as often as I can. Before I go to bed, most nights I get my stretches in. That way I stay limber. That way I stay injury free. So hamstring injuries and quad injuries and whatnot, I've never really had. I've had a hamstring injury only once in my career, and that was I recovered fairly quickly from that. So here I moved on to stiff leg deadlifts. You can see me performing here. Again, the weight stayed at 100 kilos. Again, there was no plan to go really, really heavy on this session. Sticking to great form was the key. And same again from a different angle here. Stiff leg deadlifts. Now, this is a great exercise for building your hamstring, right? I'm not a massive deadlift guy, as you can see. I don't deadlift a lot, other than when I do legs and hit my when I train my hamstrings. I find stiff leg deadlifts to be one of the better exercises for growing the hamstring. That stretch in the hamstring you feel as you go down and up, the glutes and hamstring, to be honest, it's a great exercise. So I'm a massive advocate for it. I don't do the conventional deadlifts for building my back. I tend to row quite heavily to build my back and do other back exercises, obviously. But rowing is my substitute for deadlifts when I'm hitting my back. But I do not deadlifts, and I don't see the need for it as a bodybuilder. Some people say it thickens your back, deadlifting. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but for me, I've never felt that it worked for me as a bodybuilder. Then I moved on to leg extension here. Now, if you haven't got a hamstring curl or in your machine, you can always adapt the leg extension like I'm doing here, or the seated leg extensions I'm doing here, and turn that into a hamstring curl, a standing hamstring curl. As you can see, I don't know if you guys have ever tried this or seen anyone do it, but it's a great little exercise for hitting your hamstring. It's like doing a bicep curl on your hamstring using the leg extension. So don't make excuses for not training your hamstring. Your hamstring is one of those body parts that you can't see, so people tend to neglect it. I never neglect my hamstring. I train them heavily. So I did about 5 sets to these before I moved on to on hamstring curls and the leg extension, before I moved on to walking lunges to finish off the leg session. So it was a quick session. It was a fairly hard session. The weight wasn't too heavy, but I stuck to good form, and I'm now feeling it today. So it shows you I've done something right. So yeah, you can see I'm doing a single leg extension. Did single leg, double leg, a mixture of both. I think about 5 to 6 sets in the end on these. And so yeah, it was a fairly good session for what it's worth. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. I hope you guys like and subscribe, comment. It helps me. It helps me. Thank you for getting me to 4K as well. 4K subs. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace. Suck it up, Susie. I can pull it that loose leaf. Animal, make a zoovie. On the jet, don't be choosy.